Okay then. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is PB Coder. Also in real life is Parker Bidigary. So this is the very first time I'm actually streaming. Hopefully it's actually working. um, so yeah, I kind of figured this would be like kind of be like an intro. Figure it's like my very first video. I think it would go very well. So basically, I figured I would have like 1/4 of this essentially. Here, let me fix this a little bit. Like going down a little bit. I'm used to doing YouTube videos back in the day. I think it was like 2012, 2013. I started to get into YouTube and got into the whole entire like Minecraft phase. It's probably in there for like a little bit, but anyways, while I get my flow going here, before I actually show the main event, which as you can see on the actual screen, I got two screens here. I got my TV monitor and I got my computer right here using my webcam, so you can actually see me. I kind of figured I would create this channel for me to, in an entertaining way, as best as I can. Teach people how to code, or at least just have people be able to look at the various things that I do with programming, and hopefully it might rub off to someone else that wants to learn how to program, and while at the same time, that person can have a lot of fun. So I'm going to start the video, other than what I just said, with just a little bit of an intro, like who I am and stuff like that. So the reason why I called myself PB Coder is because, well, PB as in my name, Parker Bidigary, and of course I'm a coder or a programmer. Like that's the thing. I don't even know what the different like I've heard people say coding and programming is different. I'm not really for sure about that unless you're talking about a coder as in like JavaScript or HTML or PHP or some type of scripting language or markup language, um, of some sort, essentially. Yeah, my throat. Um, but yeah, that's why I'm called PB Coder. And just probably a month ago, I just came up with this idea because I'm starting to see these programmers, software developers, usually self-employed. Some of them have worked for like Google and stuff like that. But let me see this. Okay, okay. This is my first time doing this, so I just wanted to try this out. It looks like I'm dropping some frames, so that's kind of interesting. Again, first time trying to do Twitch here, but anyways, continuing on. Where was I? Oh yeah, there's a huge community. Like it's not a huge community, but it's a community developing that are a lot of developers, a lot of, I don't know, like just software engineers like myself that are starting to go on YouTube and get these little followings and stuff like that. And it's not so much I want to be like, oh, I want to be all famous and everything. I just wanted to find a fun thing I can do that could turn into something big, but at the exact same time, essentially help people learn how to program. Now, continuing on who I am and everything, I've been programming for unprofessionally 15 years. Started off with Java, C++, Visual Basic, .NET. Didn't really get into C Sharp or any of the other languages probably until middle school. Definitely some in high school and even some in college. Like, funny story, I used to work on Cold Fusion, and most people don't even know what Cold Fusion is. It's a really old, like think of like a backend language was morphed into a markup language. Like it was so horrendous, and it had compatibility with .NET 2.0. I think you can actually load like a DLL file or something like that. Which, if you don't know what that is, a DLL file is like kind of like a library of code that you can like attach onto your own program, so that you can use that code into your actual application. So if you're a JavaScript programmer, then it's sort of like a framework, but it's already compiled. It's kind of weird, but if you're a scripting language type person, then it's a little different to think about or something like that. I was originally compiled, or I don't know the technical term, but uh, a compiled language guy. Like again, as I say, I started with Java and C++ and all that stuff. But my main interest was video game development, and also let me see, developing robots. I liked artificial intelligence back in the day, 2008, 2007 era. Trying to work with neural networks, so it's kind of a bit ahead of the game in a way, because essentially a lot of people nowadays are having a huge trend with artificial intelligence, essentially. But so yeah, I just kept on moving up through like elementary school to middle school to high school, and I mainly got into programming. I would say like fifth grade, actually, fifth or sixth grade. It was quite young for me. I got into electrical engineering, or building electronic circuits, when I was like in first grade. I worked with the breadboard, capacitors, and all that stuff. But but my main interest was modding video games. And when I started to mod video games, I started to want to build my own video games. So I got into Dark Basic, which was created from the GameCreators.com, and I was able to make some video games with very, very easy syntax, basic based programming language. And that basically allowed me to create video games very easily, very quickly, with minimum resources. Probably the hardest part was making like three-dimensional objects, and like just, create them, put them around three-dimensional space and everything. That's probably the hardest part. And then in high school, I had various electronics classes. I worked with the propeller chip, which was an 8-core processor running at 200 megahertz. It was from Parallax.com, and I would work with Spin Code, which is their custom language, and assembly code. And I started to learn a little bit of assembly to control microcontrollers. So I kind of worked with essentially embedded systems. Got into the Raspberry Pi, the Arduino, which I tend to say badly. Then, of course, I got into full-on .NET with ASP.NET, C Sharp, Visual Basic.NET, which I knew for a while, but got back into it because I had to for a job. 5 years I've been programming professionally, so actually I think it's 6 years now, which is really cool. But let me see here. Anything else? So outside of programming, really like the meme community. Like who doesn't? That's a millennial. But let me see what else. What else? I like the Elder Scrolls series. I'm a die-hard fan of the old Star Wars Galaxies, which is absolutely amazing. I love that series a lot. And wow, I'm dropping frames like crazy. I'm gonna have to see how this goes. Might have to work on getting a better internet connection for next time. Oh well, it's the very first video. I'm also recording it too, so YouTube should be better on it, essentially. But Oh yeah, if you also want to check out YouTube, you could go into YouTube. Again, my username is PB Coder, or my channel, I should say. But so yeah, I like video games. I like Star Trek, kind of nerdy and stuff like that. I also like to go out, like to party a bit. Nothing too crazy. Hang out with friends, the usual stuff a normal person does. But I'm thinking over time I'll be able to express myself and who I am and everything. But for now, let's end this little intro that I'm doing, and we could just jump right into code. And I figure I'd start off with something light, nothing too complex. C Sharp is my main language I use all the time, so I'm going to go over here, and as you can see, I have a .NET framework using Visual Studio 2017, even though 2000 or Visual Studio 2019 is coming out early April. I don't know if it's like the second or fourth, not really for sure. But as you can see here for the name, um, my scripting language. I'm hoping that everyone can see that. I don't have any people in the chat at the moment, but let me see here. Yeah, I think you guys can read that. Unless the stream is like all fuzzy or something. But so right here we have my scripting language as the namespace, and of course class is program. And then we have the main function right here with the arguments as a string array. So if you don't know anything about programming, these usings, even though it's not proper English, but like using system.collections.generic, using system.link, LINQ, and then system.text, system.threading.tasks. So this is like importing a library, like a core library that comes with .NET. And system is like the overall like core systems, like you have control to the console, you have control keyboard inputs, just very basic stuff. Then we got generic, or the system collections generic. This is for like lists. I think arrays, specifically like string or int or double arrays, are in system. At least I think, but definitely the system.collections.generic is for more advanced arrays, or IEnumerable, which is another type of array that is used for like when you're using link, which is the LINQ, which link is like, if you're familiar with um, SQL or SQL, which is a database, fourth generation program or language. I don't even know if you'd call it program or query language. Basically, you would ask a query, which is basically saying like, "Hey, can I get all the data of the employee's first name in the employee database?" When there's like first name, last name, so on and so forth, and you create a query as in select employee database, or I'm sorry, that is totally wrong. Select first name from employee database where employee ID equals 2 or something. And the employee with the ID number 2 will be selected, and it will return the first name of that employee. So that is a query. So a query language is literally what I just said. Like literally what I just said was not like, it was practically English, but it was what you would actually put into an SQL database query. I'm probably confusing the heck out of people that don't know anything about code. I'm thinking like you're gonna have to probably watch a lot of my videos. I'm not super linear with a lot of things I talk about. I should be very clear about that. I go on various tangents. So this is more like it's a casual streaming slash video, matters if you're on Twitch or YouTube. But it's very casual, and the main reason for that is that we basically want it so that people can just kind of relax and just watch stuff. It's probably more for intermediate and advanced programmers, but it can also be good for beginner programmers because I'll try to explain everything I can that's very simple, essentially, or basic, I should say, not just simple. But the starting points I'll explain, and the advanced stuff I'll explain as much as I can. So the link to continue on with that, as you can see, I just went on a tangent. Link is very similar to an SQL query, but you actually use it in C#. So that, I don't know if I'm going to show today, but I'll try the best I can with that, at least in other videos. We also have system.txt. I don't remember exactly what's in system.txt. I imagine stuff with strings, like string builder or something like that. And then system.threading.tasks, which is for essentially multi-threading type stuff, asynchronous functions that return a task, and you can like check on if the function or whatever you're doing is completed or not. So let's get started with a simple program. As every single tutorial for every language, at least for most of them, say a hello world. So we got console.writeLine. I'll explain main after this, but console.writeLine. So the console is what's going to show up as like a command prompt essentially, and this is going to print out hello world to it. So there is console, which is literally just calling up the console. There's many functions that go with the console. And then write line means that it'll write it and then return. So it'll go down to the next line. Now you could do console.write, which I'll probably show after I show off this program, but console.write does it without doing the return, so it doesn't go back to the new line. So let's get started. Have it compile. And as you can see, it just flashed. So you didn't really see anything. So what you really need to do is essentially, sorry, I was looking at something here. It's like 12% dropped frames. Dang, I need to like fix I need to like get like a landline or something. I'm using Wi-Fi and I'm upstairs, so that's probably not a good idea for next time. But so as you can see, nothing, like something happened, but it went away because all it does is that it prints it and then it gets out of the program. So we'll learn probably later on like loops and stuff like that to keep the program running continuously. But right now we're just going to do a console.read line, and that's all we're going to do. Read line basically means that you can enter in a sentence, a word, a letter into the command line, or the console, I should say, not command line. And you can actually use that to like get input from the keyboard and store it into a variable, which I'll talk about a little bit. But before we continue on with this, let me explain a little bit of namespace, class, and the main function. So class is kind of a bit like an organized, like with object-oriented programming, which C# is an OOP language. Basically, a class holds a combination, or it's like an organization tool of holding methods, attributes, variables, whatever you want, parameters, all into one area. And usually it has a certain purpose, the class does, to accomplish certain things. Sometimes you have a generic class to have like, oh, have the generic function or method, matters on what language you're talking about. C++ uses functions. C Sharp and Java uses methods, so matters what language you're using. But since we're using C Sharp, is methods. Um, a generic class can have method A, B, and C, and you can call that by creating an object, which I'll show later on. But so the main, or the class basically just holds everything together. It's like the structure of it. And then main, which is a function, or I'm sorry, a method. I keep on thinking of functions. Functions a more intuitive thing for me to say than method, but a method, the main method, as you can see, is static void main parentheses string array args, and that is basically args is an input of an array, which means that there's multiple variables stored in one, of string, which string is like a series of characters or a string of characters. That's why they call it a string. And technically a string by itself, so if a string was literally like that, that is an array of characters. So a string is the exact same thing as this, which is an array of characters. And a character is A or B or C, where a string could be like ABC or CBA or something like that. And I should clarify, this would be like A or B or C. This could be ABC, BCD, and this is the same as this. So literally, like this is just me explaining, it's not actual code. But char square brackets, which means an array of characters, is the, apparently I can't type right, but is the same as string. Ignore the args right now, but it's literally like the same stuff. And I'll explain later on why you would want to use a char array instead of a string, which we can get into later. But for now, it is a string array. So main is literally the name of the method. I could just come down here and be like void main2, and there we go. We could do that. It's literally another method I just created inside the program class. But what makes main so different than other methods is that it's literally the starting point of the whole entire program. Like right here, this bracket on is literally the starting point of the programming of the whole entire program. It's like if you're going for a race, this is the starting point where I have highlighted. And it ends, well, it's kind of hard to say where it ends. It matters on the program, but for now, it ends, if I can highlight properly. No, I don't want to do that. It ends right there. So that is what's so significant with the main method. You can't create another main method. You can't have more than one. But also we have void, which is right before the method's name is the return type, meaning that it can return a variable or an object, which I'll explain what an object is later. But basically it returns nothing. So this method does not return any information to the program. And static basically means that it's accessible anywhere in the program without having to create an object to access that method. But so that is the basics of the method, other than the parentheses or the curly brackets here are basically saying this method contains this code inside here. And once you call this method right here, it will execute only the code inside this brackets. It will not execute any code out here, and it won't execute any code up here, only inside the brackets. And also, I should note to you guys that you can also have, wow, I should know this. I don't really know the actual um, terminology so well. Accessor keywords, I don't know. But we got public, we got private, and we got protected. And there is technically default in other ones, but I'm not going to talk about that for now. So public means that um, any other class can access this method. Private means that only inside the class that this method is held in, only other methods can access that method, not a class outside of the current class that this method is held. That other class cannot access this method. And protected means that and I'm 98% sure about this. I would have to maybe look this up again. If I do have this incorrectly, I'm sorry. Probably should have looked it up a little bit, but protected is essentially a combination of both public and private, and only programs in the same namespace can access that method, or programs, classes I meant. So the reason why the main method does not have like a public or a private, which just to demonstrate, usually you would have something like that. The public static is either there or it's gone, but for the main method, you need it to be static. But again, that's where that would be, and I can show an example of that later on. So we basically, oh yeah, I also need to explain namespace. So namespace is basically just a placeholder of saying, okay, I'm a part of this project. And what's really cool is if you come over here and if you create a folder and then you add a class, which is literally what this is. Now let's just call this program2.cs because C# files are named as .cs. Now, as you can see here, we're currently in program2.cs, my scripting language.new folder 1, meaning that you can separate different classes in namespaces through folders. This is again like an organization tool essentially. So you can have a namespace for test programs, namespace for development programs, a namespace for database programs, or classes I should say, not programs. And essentially that's how namespaces are worked, or how they work. So I'm going to delete this for now. We're going to get back to executing this program. And as you can see, the program actually stays there. And you get some like these my Visual Studio is like wacky with the resolution of the TV, so it looks really big. But as you can see here, it says hello world, and it's staying there. It's not continuing or closing the program. So I can type in a bunch of stuff in here because we're having the console.read line. So you can type as much as you want, press enter, and close the program because there's nothing else out of or after the read line function or method. Jeez, not function. So that's a very basic program that I have right now. I try to do I'm thinking about doing these streams like, excuse me, an hour long or something like that. Got some gum. So now that I kind of went through like a beginner's tutorial, let's just have some fun coding. I figured since I'll have my intro, I'll have like a little tutorial, a little beginner's tutorial, and then for anyone that is just purely interested or an intermediate or maybe a beginner that's becoming an intermediate, and definitely an advanced person can watch this. Um, I'm just going to create a program, not explain stuff. I might say little things here and there, but it's really cool program that you can use in your own programs that's very beneficial. And what I'm going to be doing is that when I create this program, I'm going to put it on my GitHub as an open source, and I'll do the best I can. I'm not really for sure at the moment how I'm going to do this or how I'm going to like share this to other people, but essentially what I'm going to do is that I'm going to post the software on my GitHub, and I'm going to make it so it's accessible to you guys. I'm going to try to share the link and all that. But I'll be doing that after the live stream, try to figure out how to like send my link or maybe in a description or something. But so let's move on to creating a fun little program. So for this, I'm going to be needing to do nlua. You open up manage NuGet packages, which is basically like an npm or a chocolately, or like a brew software essentially. But for .NET, it's NuGet. I don't know why I call it NuGet. I don't know why they call most of these things the way they do. As you can see right now, it's loading. Let me see. nlua. And if you don't know what Lua is a scripting language. Again, I'm not going to go super deep into this stuff, but just the basic explanation. And of course, this is running, if you are just joining in, this is running on .NET framework. I believe 4.6.1. Let me just double check that. That is not what I wanted. 4.6.1 as a console application. So I'm going to, let me see here. I know what I'm going to do. So instead of having just a console application, I'm also going to create a library because I want you guys to be able to use this code on your own projects. I'm not going to have it where it's like, oh, it's copyright material, or oh, you have to buy it or anything like that, or it's shareware or whatever crap it is. Completely open source. You can use it for your own projects. And I tried to make sure that if there are any libraries connected to this code, that it's also like a free software or free library that you don't have to worry about. Now the thing is though, I'm using .NET Framework, so anyone that's using .NET Core will not be able to use this. I might create a .NET Core version of this because it's a really cool little tool that I've used for my own software, but that might be for later. Let me see here. Use public class Lua connector, and then let me see here. How am I going to do this? So unlock project. Let's go back to manage NuGet. Gotta go here and Lua. We're gonna get the same thing going on here. Now let me see here. I haven't actually created this software in a long time. It's been like several years. So I might have to almost like relearn it a little bit. So hopefully that does not become too much of an issue, essentially. Got N Lua. Kura Lua. What's the other one? Lua. Okay, Lua connector is literally the one I'm using. So it's important to create your own instance of Lua in the program. So I'm just gonna do Lua. The one over here is a class with capital L. Right here is just a small L for the object name. Wonder why this is complaining. Oh, okay, I see. So I'm gonna take that out. I'm just gonna use the NLua version, not the Kura Lua. We're gonna have a constructor for Lua connector. And then we create our object from being null into an actual object, as in Lua. Let me see here, Lua state. Not really for sure. Oh, that's if you're using Lua. Okay, cool. So now we got the basics of having Lua integrated into our C# program. Whole entire deal is to make it so that we can add our own custom C#. I always keep on saying functions, but methods. And by doing that, we'll be able to like create our own scripting language essentially. So here we're going to do public void run line of code. We're going to do here, and we're going to do code. And it's probably best, try, move this a little bit. Try and catch. If you don't know what try catch is, whenever an exception happens, it does not break your application. Instead, it creates an exception as in a variable like I. For me, I basically just do console.write line I. I0I. So this basically prints out the exception on your console. And we are going to be doing do string. Literally executes a line of Lua code into Lua within our C# program. So we're going to do the code. Let me see. So when you hover over a method, .NET or Visual Studio is smart enough to show you, hey, there's an object array as the return. You got the class dot method, and then you have the arguments that you put into it, which is string chunk, which chunk is literally like I guess would be the code string or the string of code. I'm not really for sure what chunk name is. Maybe you can have multiple chunks of code, I guess. I'm not really for sure, but for now we're just going to have it where it literally just does a line of code. So we're just going to keep it like this for now. I'll continue on with some more functions that makes this a lot more worthwhile. And we're going to go over to my scripting language. Going to go over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the project, right click, and then what we are going to do, we're going to find add, and then we're going to see the reference ... So we're going to go on to projects, and we're going to click on the Lua connector, since this is going to be a library essentially, not an application like a form or a console application. So we click on that, so we have a reference to that. So once we're in here, we could literally just be like Lua connector, and we could just say connect equals new Lua connector. As you can see, it's squiggly line, meaning that it'll cause an error. Usually, I don't know why it's not doing it though. Usually there's a little light bulb that shows up that you can. I'm surprised though. Why is there no light bulb? Usually there's a light bulb that shows up and it actually suggests things that you can do to fix the issue, which is very helpful. But for now, we're just going to do using. Oh, Lua connector. Oh, wow, I'm dumb. See, even me with 15 years of practice coding still gets things wrong. So I'm going to show you what would happen. You can kind of see the light bulb popping up once in a while, but this is the namespace right here, Lua Connect 4. And then what you do is you do dot. No, it's still not doing that. Okay, there's the light bulb. I think I had a typo originally. Gotta love doing it live and having all these issues and stuff. But also I should probably point out the reason why I'm doing these live streams is mainly to show you like a day, like a day in a life of a coder, like just coding normally. There's a lot of references that a lot of software developers need, including Google itself. But as you can see, there's like a little light bulb right here. It's like boom. Program Lua. Huh. It's using Lua connector. Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. All the typos are killing me today. Okay. 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 I get it. I get it. Lua connector. And then Lua connector. And then we're going to have Lua here. So that is how you actually call a class and put into an object, which is Lua. So Lua dot run line of code, which we already made before, and we can put a string here. So basically just going to do string and command, not demand, command. Console.read line. And that will make it so that we can enter in a command essentially. And we could put command here. And what's really cool is we're going to also create a loop. We're going to do a while true. Going to do a fun infinite loop here, but it's not really going to be infinite because we're going to have a special command. If command equals /stop break. So the break takes you outside the while loop. When you're outside the while loop, the program shuts down. Or maybe instead of stop, I should say shutdown. Probably a more accurate term. So it has been a while since I've done this, so hopefully this is good enough. We get into some errors, we're going to do some debugging. So as you can see, it's just kind of blank here. So I'm going to do print hello world. And it just printed hello world. So we basically built a custom console just for Lua. So it's cool and all, but we want some extra extra features and stuff. We want to make it so that we can create our own methods in C# and put it inside Lua, essentially making a Lua extended scripting language with our own methods of C# in it. And I'll show you how to do that. So I should probably demonstrate like how you would shut down the program just for fun. And it shuts down the program. So we go into Lua connector. And we could do the public void add. I don't know how you spell method, so whatever. I'm just going to say function. Add function. And if I recall correctly, I think you have to have func name object class object, and I think that's all you need. Now I had to remember how to do this. We have the try catch in there again, and we do the console dot write line for the exception. Lua dot get function. I think there's no add. Register function. There we go. Okay, so we got string path method base. Interesting. So I want to say path would be function name. And that would be class object for object. And then method base. So this is getting into some .NET reflection. So let me see here. Since it's been a very long time, I'm going to open up another program that uses this. I'm just going to get the script file from here really quick. As you can see, this is really big. So I'm going to do that. Whoops. Okay, so this is a very, very, whoops, I don't want to do that. This is a really, really old function that I made a long time ago. Okay, don't really care for that. Don't really care for that. Don't really care for that. This is what I care for. Okay, so the object.getType get method. Okay, that's what I was looking for. So all this I can just take away. Those were different types of functions that were used essentially. But we got Lua.register function. And this basically allows you to create or add in a function or a method within C# into Lua. Just going to save that. And then in program, I'm going to create my own method. Public void say hello. And it's going to literally be just a console.writeLine. Say hello. So basically, before the loop, I'm going to be doing Lua.add function. And I'm going to have to create an object of program, so PRM equals new program. And we're going to, it is called say hello, and then PRM. So that literally adds the function into our Lua instance of say hello, which is going to be an individual method. So once we run the program, we're going to do say hello, and it says hello. So that is basically how you would integrate a C# method into Lua. Now it's been like several years since I've done it, that's why I had to like grab from another project essentially what that code is. And we can go back over here, can kind of clean this up a bit, organize it. So Lua.register function, we have the function name as a string, the actual class that it identifies with as an object, and then object.getType get method, and it's literally the string of the function. So this part is a little bit more complex, but it basically gets the method info, meaning that you can see like if it's a public, if it's a protected, private, what attributes it has, what method name, excuse me, what method name it is, all sorts of that stuff. So it's like an object of the method, and that's why it's called reflection, because it's literally code that's looking at its own code to get information from it and even invoke and execute that method just in the code if it wanted to. It's kind of it's almost like you're in a dream within a dream. It's like a inception almost. But yeah, it basically just gets the information of the method and puts it into Lua essentially with additional information of what class and what actual name of the function it is. So this stuff is like just listing like the error message and then being more specific what method from what class is not working. If for some reason something's misspelt or it's just not going through the system correctly, that is what will happen. So all that put together, it's a very basic program that you can have your own scripting language built on Lua to have into your program, which you can add in plugins or apps or anything like that. And I might actually add on with this program in the next stream or next video I'm going to post on my GitHub, which I'm going to try to share to you guys. Reaching around the 1 hour mark, so I appreciate everyone that's been watching. Make sure to follow me, subscribe, like, whatever, comment, share, all the cheesy stuff I usually say at the end of anything I make of a video or recording of some sort. Thank you for watching. My name is PB Coder. Stay coding.